Good evening. You are joining with Law and Order on ChannelEye. This is the program where we speak and extract about different kinds of laws that are governing the country, Sri Lanka. So today, to speak about this specific law about property that are adhering to the laws of property, we have invited Mrs. Noorani Amarasinghe, attorney at law, and also Notary Public, with 28 years of experience, practicing experience, who's also specializing in property law and also many other legal aspects. Good evening to you. Great
Good
to have you on
evening.
board. So lawyer, let me, since we are speaking about the property law in Sri Lanka, let's give it a definition and also speak about why it is important to have a property law in a country.
When you say property law, you can categorize immovable property, movable property, intellectual property. So I assume that you are
Speaking
aiming
about
at
immobile
and movable. So when it comes to immovable property, that is land and building. The Constitution has conferred our right, I mean the right of the public to own property.
Right.
So when you own property as the owner, you are entitled to protect your right,
Right.
your ownership. So when it comes to ownership, the property laws are important where you have to protect your right. I mean, if somebody is encroaching on your land, then you have to litigate and then secure your land. If there's somebody who is trying to evict you, when you have the right to be there, then you have to litigate and then protect your right. So in such events, these laws of property comes into play, and it's very important.
It's very important. So that it's not just about the immovable property, it's also about the movable property at the same time. Having this law governing both these segments is very important for the country and for the citizens who are living in the country.
Yes.
All right. So the next topic would be about trances. Now we know that there are so many property transfers that are happening in the country when it comes to movable, especially movable property, because you see a lot of inheritance going on, and then sometimes someone could gift their property to somebody else. But then again, the trances, when it comes to that, what are the essentials of a valid property transfer? Because this is something that everybody goes, sometimes people are not aware of these things.
Right.
What is that?
When you say a transfer, that means if you are the owner, you are conveying your rights to another person. When you do it, there must be a valuable consideration. That is, you convey your property for money.
Right.
Then you should have the right to do so. Firstly, you have to have the right. I mean, you see that lot of incidents are happening in Sri Lanka where you are not the proper owner. But you execute fraudulent deeds and then execute transfers.
Right.
But if you are actually the real owner, then you have a right to dispose of your property. Then the purchaser's lawyer will have a big task to look into title and see whether the chain of title is clear, whether whether the land that is being sold is properly identified. So those things you have to check into. I of course say that more than looking the title at the land registries, you have to do a physical survey and then see. Physical survey in the sense you have to find the ground situation, whether these people are the correct people. Who hold out to be the owners. Sometimes people may impersonate and there might be a fraudulent act done. So what I say is that when you are trying to sell a property, it is up to the lawyer to investigate the title properly. Right, because it's your hard-earned money.
Exactly.
So you have to protect that right of the purchaser.
Yes.
I of course say that you all must be extremely careful in identifying the property, identifying the people, and getting lawyers' assistance and to execute the deed in your name.
Right. Okay. So since we're at the topic of these forfeited trances, or like fake trances, I would say in simple words, if someone finds out, so imagine like I live in a house and then somebody somehow has sold my house without me knowing it, can we work it backwards somehow?
You have to litigate. There's no other way. Sometimes you may be in possession, but there may be fraudulent documents created. Actually, it is sad to say that in the land registries, without the help of the government officers, I mean the people who are working at the land registry, you can't commit any fraud. Sometimes if the lawyers also, if they do their job properly, because what the act says is, when it is a transfer, you should know the executant, and you should know either you should know the executant or you should know the witnesses, because the witnesses will be saying, right, look here, I know this person, he is A, and he vouches for the identity of that person. Right? It is not the just merely checking your identity card. You will know exactly that this is the person, because you are known so well to the witnesses and you are trusting the witnesses, and you are believing what they say. Actually, if that connection is there, and if the lawyers and notaries properly follow these principles, there can't be any frauds taking place. That is there. And in the government, I mean in the land registries, if the people are honest and if they are doing their job properly and not getting involved in any other like unwanted fraudulent acts in connivance with the other people, then no frauds will take place in this country.
So there's always some interference from the authorities.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And it is sad to say that sometimes the professionals are also involved in these things. So that's
shocking, honestly. Right. So when it comes to gift of deeds, now we know that gift of deeds happen, among families, maybe among friends. Sometimes, if someone likes, if you want to give a gift, something that you own as a property, as a gift, you do it. But then again, some things can also go wrong in the long run, and you want to revoke it. Can that happen? Can that be done?
When you say deeds of gifts, it can be a revocable gift or it can be a irrevocable gift.
So does this have to be defined in the beginning?
It is. It has to be specifically stated in the deed whether it is revocable or irrevocable. Right? If it is revocable, you have no problem. You can revoke it at any time. If it is irrevocable, still you can revoke it, but there's a procedure. Now, of course, there's an amendment that came in 2017, if I'm not wrong, that says you have to, if you are interested in revoking it, you have to come within 10 years from the date of execution of the deed.
Right.
And then you have to file action within 2 years from the date of the cause of action. Now, supposing generally a deed of gift will be revoked on gross ingratitude, because you generally gift, you generally make a gift because you have your love and affection towards that person, right?
Exactly.
So then, only if you can prove gross ingratitude that you can cancel this deed. So to prove that, now with this new law, right, you are given only 10 years. And then from the date the cause of action arose, you have to file action within 2 years.
Okay.
So I haven't experienced anything because it's quite a recent amendment. But I think actually this is bad for the reason, because bad in the sense revocation, you are given only 10 years. So if I have given it to my son, supposing he ill-treats me.
Yes, in the future.
I am given only 10 years.
Exactly.
So you can wait till 9 years and start harassing, because then there's this 2-year gap, all that is there. So I personally feel that there's a problem in that law.
Right, exactly. So, okay, this brings me to more questions, because now in that aspect about gift deeds and revocability, what about if someone ends up getting harassed, like you mentioned, but then again, how do you prove it? Like, how do you prove it to the authorities that I'm really getting harassed? Can it be verbally done? Or
it is like this, like if I am abused, I may have to produce some evidence, either a recording or a police complaint, or with the neighbor's evidence to show that, if I am being scolded by my son every day, then even the neighbors could hear it. So I have to make police complaints. I have to prove. I must prove it in court that there had been ingratitude
Attitude.
towards me, so I have to prove all
Prove
that.
it. So police
Unless
report
you
can be-
prove, no relief
There's no
will be
way.
given.
Okay, great. Right, so moving on, so let's speak about the caveats. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't know, but then again, the moment you mentioned about the fraudulent trances, I think caveat comes into play majorly. How does it work?
It's like this. Now, if I fear that somebody will do something with my land, I myself can lodge a caveat in respect of my property. So, in the particular folio, there are folios and there are books maintained at the land registry. So, I can have a caveat lodged affecting my land.
Right.
What caveat does is, you are entitled to notice. Supposing you execute a fraudulent deed in respect of my property, then when you tender that deed for registration,
Right.
the land registry will inform me with a notice saying that there's this particular document that had come for registration. So, I
Right.
have to take action.
Okay.
So, then what is action? I have to maybe first send a letter of demand and ask you to withdraw the caveat, and then proceed and then file action. That is of course a shorter procedure because it's under summary procedure. It's you get the relief at the very instance,
Okay.
first instance, or there will be a interlocutory decree, then that person will be heard. But anyway, that procedure is quicker.
Quicker, because then you get notified every time someone accesses
Well,
your
yes.
document, you get notified. How do you set it up? Do you have to go to the land registry and do it? Will
No,
it cost-
once we register it, the land registry is supposed to inform me. But there are instances in my experience where certain things, sometimes my own caveat has been revoked by somebody else.
Oh.
Like those, such instances are there. I mean, I have experience in my.
Right. So in that case, can someone periodically go and check whether it's still active?
Anyway, the caveat, there are, I mean, 2 years, 5 years, like you, I mean, there's a limit, time limit,
Oh, right, minimum.
and you have to pay money according to the time limit.
Okay.
So then but you can continue, extend the effect of the caveat periodically.
Okay, great. Right. So let's also speak about the last will and also the life interests in Sri Lanka, because this is something also that brings a lot of questions among families, within families, when it comes to parent children relationships at the same time. So could you elaborate on that?
When you say last will and life interest, last will come into play only when you are no more.
No more. Okay.
So there's no life interest is involved, because anyway you are enjoying it. It will, the last will get effect only after your demise.
Yes.
But in a deed of gift, you can reserve the right. That is a life interest. If you reserve the life interest with you, if you are gifting a property, then you are entitled to enjoy the property, and that the person, the donee. When you gift, you call that person the donor, and the donee will
Right.
be able to enjoy the property only after your death, because until you are alive, you are allowed to enjoy the property fully.
Fully.
Whether you rent it out and get the income, or whether you are going to physically possess it, or whatever, it is
Right.
your right.
Right. So the donee, the person who receives it, what if the person wants to develop the land? Is that okay?
That can be done with the consent of the parents. Now, in today's society, I mean, I may get a property gifted from my father. Father is also living there. As long as everybody is living in harmony, there won't be any issue.
Any issues?
Only if somebody starts harassing the other person, then the problems may arise.
Okay. So,
And
since
one more
the-
thing, and
yes.
if you want to raise a loan or something, still, now if I am the donee, I can get my father's consent and apply for a loan and all that. There won't be any problem.
Okay.
As long as the life interest holder consents to it, there's no problem.
So the consent has to be given in the form of
In
signature?
writing, or even at the bank, if you go for a bank loan or something, it's a matter of signing the papers, applications and things like that. There's
Okay.
no problem.
Right. So one more question on that then, because what if the person, I mean, the donor is maybe sedentary, can't move, maybe very old age? What happens then?
The notary can come to that person.
Ah,
Notary's visit.
right. Okay, that's great then. So good to know all this information, because then you can access all this information thanks to the lawyer.
As long as that person is sane and he has the testamentary capacity, I mean, he knows what's happening, there's no problem.
All right, great. All right. So let's talk about the disputes. Now, disputes also do happen when you own a large land. You have to have a fence or something, and then again, even if you have a small land, you have to mark your demarcations and your limitations and your limits within your land. So about making fences, building fences. Now, this is something that doesn't happen in Colombo much, but then if you go to rural areas, you see that sometimes create chaos. When it comes to creating fences, now this is something I learned recently. I'm telling you out of my experience. The wire that you run on the fence, it has to be on your side or on the other person's side.
It's like this. Now, we'll assume there's a concrete post, and if the wire runs through the concrete post, it's in the middle. Then it's a
shared, is it?
It's a common boundary.
Okay.
But if the wire is on that side,
right,
outer side, then it is my. I mean.
So you're acquiring the other person's?
No. Because the fence has to be put on your land.
All right. So you put the.
So you fix the boundary like this and put the wire like that. If the wire is outside the concrete post, then that is my boundary.
Okay.
But if the wire is on my side, it is on the other person's boundary.
Okay, right. So this is, I think, practically, if you are speaking, this happens a lot. I think a lot of problems arise because of this issue in
I know, for 1 inch people litigate. So
exactly. Yeah, that does happen. So that's why we brought it up to you. So next thing, now there's also issues about having windows and openings at the upper floors. Now, especially if you're living side by side to many other houses, and having a window which is more like someone looking into your privacy. You feel like your privacy is being invaded by someone having a window in the upper floor right at your garden or something.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
is that lawful?
More than the property law, that I mean, when you are putting up a building, you are supposed to get approval from the provincial councils.
Right.
Sorry, the municipal council, and the municipal council or the UDA will be approving those plans depending on the area you live.
Right.
So if you are violating any of those conditions, permit will not be given to you to leave those openings facing the other side into your property. I mean, the approval will not be given. So if the property is not given, it becomes an unlawful building. So the municipal council has the right to ask them to close those windows and comply with the conditions that are stipulated in the plan that has been approved.
Okay.
So it's more than, I mean, you can go to courts and file, but it is based on the approval given.
On the approval given.
So because the approval, they have not come, I mean, the person who has violated, he has not complied with the conditions given. Therefore, I can go to courts and say, look here, you have violated these conditions. You are not entitled to have these openings. So close up.
Right. So if you're wondering why we're asking these questions, we're asking because we want to get your point of view and the answers from the lawyer, which is why we are doing this program, to educate you about the laws that are governing the country. So next, about sewage and drainage lines and all this dirty water coming into your land from a different land or from someone's house. And what can you do about it? What kind of relief can I request?
You can initially make a complaint to the police and to the municipal council, because they also look into these things. But apart from that, under tort, we can file action against those people because they are not entitled to let their sewage line or anything to my land.
What if they are completely covered with a parapet wall and there's no way for the rainwater to go? What happens then? Is it case by case?
It is case by case. Anyway, there are something called servitudes. Servitudal right to send your rainwater if your land is in a higher level and the next person is at a lower level, then you I mean, there's no other way to send your rainwater. Then there's something called servitude. Then you can ask for that right. Like a roadway. If I am landlocked, I have to get
out of it.
Find a roadway to access my land. Then you have to, by way of necessity, you have to litigate and get a roadway. So you have to seek relief from courts
Right,
if
so
they
it
are
has to
not
be-
amicably giving you.
Okay, great. Right. So it has to be done properly, methodically, and then granted. Right. Right. So the next question would be about now there are some people who are suddenly starting up the certain manufacturing plants, maybe especially things like plastic manufacturing, plastic melting, and that sort of gives out a basically very unbearable odor, and it's you breathe bad air. You also sometimes even maybe your water sources also get bad. So what could you do at a point like that, at a polluted level like that?
Like if it is only you who are affected with this issue, then you have to take action. But if it is affecting the entire village or whatever, then it can be treated as a criminal offense as well.
Right.
It has to be a public nuisance.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
And it depends on whether this particular factory is situated within a residential area or whether it is in a commercial area. So if it is residential area, then you have a right to go and ask them to stop the factory.
Right.
There is, because they have to have certain approvals from the environmental authorities. You can't just open up a factory.
Right.
If they have even got these things, still you can make a complaint, and then they come and verify, they measure if it is a sound, they measure the sound limits, all that they do, and then they take appropriate steps after that.
Right. So the first steps to all these problems would be to lodge a complaint with the police.
That is the best way to do it, so that there's reference that you have had this problem and you have made a complaint, and that is the starting point of your complaints. So.
Okay. So the last problem I mentioned about this environmental pollution, do you think we can seek the help of the environmental authority on this? Yeah?
They help us.
They do?
They do. You have to make a complaint. Now, there's a matter I'm handling at the moment.
Right.
We made complaints, and then there were letters written, and there were inquiries held. These things happen, and then ultimately they give their finding. After that, we can make use of that order also, and then go to courts and get restraining orders. All that can be done. Depending on the seriousness of the offense and the damage that is being caused, you have to go and make the proper application to court and then get relief. You can even get restraining orders
as well,
preventing them from functioning, running a garage or running a factory or whatever.
Okay, but first they come and check, and for you to do that, first seek the police's.
Just because you are angry with that person, you can't go and make false complaints and get the authorities to act upon these things. But what you say, what you complain of, you have to prove.
Okay. Great. So you guys can take note on those things, because we discussed many aspects of legality when it comes to property laws in Sri Lanka today. And well, on that note, we are winding up today's program. To come back in the next episode, we would like to thank you once again, Mrs. Noorani Amarasinghe, attorney at law and notary public with 20 years of experience and specializing in property law and also many other legal aspects at the same time. So see you in the next episode. Have a good night.